Today from r/LetsNotMeet. Late night tow call. Hopefully this is okay to post here. My story is not one where I was the target of someone's stalking or harassment, but one where I was the guy who was at the right place at the right time. I'm fairly certain my inadvertent intervention may have saved someone I've never met from, well, who knows what. This was back in 2015 or 16. I'm a career tow truck driver. At this point, I've been towing cars for most of my adult life, and will likely do so until I either retire or die, whichever comes first. At the time, I was working for a pretty small towing company with only 2 employees, and we rotated who was on call each weekend. It was my weekend on call, and it was summer, so with people being out and about late and whatnot, I was pretty busy. Cleaning up accidents, towing broken cars both in the city and off the highway. I was fine with it, as I was paid commission at the time. So the more calls I did, the more money I made. So it's Saturday night, now Sunday morning. It's around 2:33 in the morning. And like I said, I've been busy, I'm tired, a little grumpy, and kinda wanna go home when my phone rings. It's an insurance company calling, asking if we can do a tow for one of their customers who have broken down on the side of the highway. The breakdown location they give me is about 15 miles out of town, which I normally wouldn't do. But the tow destination happens to be a dealership that's just a couple minutes from my apartment. I contemplate rejecting the call, but because I'm paid commission, I figure screw it. I can run up and grab this car, drop it off around the corner from my place, then hopefully I can head home and get a couple hours of shut-eye. So I take the call and hop on the highway. The insurance company provided me with the customer's first name, which we'll say was Kara, and gave me a phone number for her. Usually, I try to make contact with people who are on the side of the highway to let them know I'm on the way and give them an ETA. I try calling her a couple of times, but she doesn't answer. Not unusual. After a short while, I see hazard lights up the way on the shoulder, so I turn on my strobes and start slowing down. As I approach, I notice not only is there a late model car that I'm looking for, but there's another car on the scene as well that doesn't have its hazards on, but it's parked in front of the car I'm meant to tow. This is annoying, but not uncommon, as I need to be able to get in front of the disabled car in order to load it, and sometimes people don't realize that. But because the other car is there, I instead pull up behind both cars. You do this so that as the tow driver, you're the one that has to make the weird maneuver of pulling off shoulder and back onto the shoulder, and that the other car just have to drive straight forward on the shoulder. Otherwise, if I pull up in front, then the other car would have to go around me, and it's unprofessional and unsafe to make them do that. Standing at the trunk of the late model car, which is now directly in front of me, are a man and a woman. The woman is probably in her early 20s and dressed to the nines for a night out. She's about 5'1" or 5'2". She's wearing tight leatherish or something pants, a halter top, long black hair. Very pretty. The man is probably around 5'10" and skinny, maybe 150, 160 pounds, wearing a dark hoodie and dirty jeans. They're standing very close, facing each other. She has her arms crossed, and he's leaning down talking to her. I step out of my truck and approach them, introduce myself. They separate a few feet, and I look to the woman and say, "Are you Kara?" She nods. I say I'm here from her insurance company, and I ask what's going on with her car. Immediately the man pipes up and says, "Yeah, it's just having some fuel issues. It's an easy fix. Can you just drop it off at this commuter parking lot? I'm gonna fix it for her there." I'm rather annoyed at this because the commuter lot in question is further up the highway, and I'm already 15 miles out of town. Like I said before, I only took this call because it was supposed to be coming back towards my apartment, and I really wanted to go home. Not only that, but in order to change the original tow destination, I would have to call the insurance company back, wait on hold for who knows how long for a representative, and then let them know of the change and try to get them to pay me extra for the deadhead miles back home after unloading. And I really didn't want to do any of this. And thirdly, this is a late model car. I'm no mechanic, but it's new enough that whatever is wrong with it is likely covered under warranty. So the dealership is really the best place for it to go anyways. I explained all of this to the guy, but he's not really having it. He gets stern with me, saying something like, "Look, man, you just need to take the car where I tell you to take it." We go back and forth on this for maybe 60 seconds, and he's just getting madder. Well, you know what, man? You're not the named insured. Kara is. The easy way to settle this is to ask what she wants me to do with the car. And whatever she says, I'll do. Fingers crossed she'll want to take it to the dealership so I can get home sooner. I turn to look to Kara and ask her the question, and I don't see her right away. She's no longer standing where she was a minute ago, which was slightly off to my right. I continue not to see her until I've almost turned all the way around because she's standing directly behind me. And by directly, I mean within an inch of my back, arms still crossed. I look down at her. She locks eyes with me. Her eyes are wide as plates, almost owl-like, and I immediately feel like she's staring into my soul. She didn't say a word. She didn't have to. I took a step back and did what felt like was a double take. I looked at him, then looked at her, then at him, and again, and then back at her. And it slowly started to dawn on me that maybe something isn't right. I asked her, "Do you know this guy?" And she ever so slightly shook her head no. The expression on her face when I asked her that will be forever burned into my skull. I turned to the guy and was like, "Oh, you gotta go, man." Now, I'm not a tough guy. I'm a total beta male, if there is such a thing, and I don't care who knows it. I've got nothing to prove. I'm super averse to confrontation and will run at the first sign of trouble. I'm not exactly the biggest of guys either. I am, however, what I like to call sturdy. I'm 5'8" and 240 pounds. I have a bit of a gut, but I also have big thighs and broad shoulders. And people are generally surprised to find out I weigh as much as I do. And I think that might have been my saving grace for what happened next. Without a word, the guy starts to move for Kara. I move to stay in between them. He tries to push me out of his way by shoving me in the chest. But because I believe he underestimated my weight, only pushed me hard enough to make me take a slight step back. Immediately, I took that step forward towards him and body check him hard as I could, hard enough to completely knock him over, basically onto his ass. Because we rotated during the back and forth push a bit, Kara is now in front of me to my right, somewhat between me and the guy who's trying to scramble to his feet. I reached out and snatched the poor girl up by her waist, spun her towards my truck, and yelled for her to get into the driver's side, and so she does. I turn back to the guy who's standing up again at this point, and he's breathing hard. He gets right up in my face, but doesn't do anything, just breathes at me. I stare him right in the face, and mustering up the best dad voice I can muster, I just say, "You need to go." I'm shaking now, and I'm absolutely terrified. I don't know if he has a weapon. I don't know if he's going to try to fight me, and I don't know what I would do if he did. Like I said, I'm not a tough guy. I don't know how to fight. I've never been in a fight in my life. What if I get hurt badly? What if I get stabbed? What do I even do now? I just want to go home. I wasn't even going to take this damn call. All this is running through my head at lightning speed. After probably around 15 seconds or so, which felt like eons, he kind of huffs a bit, smiles on the creepiest smiles I've ever seen, and starts to back off. Sucking his teeth and rubbing his hands together, he slowly walks backwards a few steps, then makes his way to the front of the car, gets in and drives off. I stayed motionless, watching him until I could no longer see his taillights. I got Kara's car loaded up on the tow truck, and we made our way to the dealership. She told me through tears that her car had shut off while she was driving, and she pulled onto the shoulder and called her parents. Because she was on their insurance, her parents made the call to the insurance company, who eventually dispatched me to her location. While she was waiting, a bit after she made the call, the guy pulled up in front of her and walked up to her passenger side window to try to talk to her, asking if she needed help. She told him she was fine, that a tow truck was coming, and she did need help. He persisted, and she tried to tell him off, and eventually tried to roll up the window. Apparently, he stuck his arm in the window and got the door unlocked, opened the door. In fear, she jumped out of the car, leaving her phone inside, and ran to the back of the car and stayed put there because it was in the line of sight of traffic. Apparently he was pretty lewd with her, and whenever she tried to go back to the car, he would prevent her from getting in. Several minutes later, I showed up. Who knows what would have happened had the timing been any different. Her parents were waiting at the dealership when we arrived. She told them what just happened. Her parents gave me a $20 tip, which was all the cash they had on them at the time. And Kara gave me a very tight and clearly heartfelt hug before I left. I never saw her again. I'll tell you what, every guy has daydreamed at some point of coming to the rescue of a pretty girl in trouble, myself included. You think you're gonna be the hero, that you're gonna be the cat's ass. You're gonna slay the dragon and get the girl and ride off into the sunset like the king you are. But for me, being in that situation, in that moment, was one of the most terrible feelings I've ever had in my life. Forced into a confrontation I didn't want nor was prepared for, not knowing what to expect from a clearly not well-hinged individual. I didn't feel like the cat's ass. I didn't feel like a hero. I felt like a scared little kid encountering a bully on the playground for the first time. If I'm ever in a situation like that, I will never not intervene. I just really hope I don't have to.